With COVID-19 starting to have more of an impact on our daily lives, it's important that we focus on our physical and mental health in order for us to be the best person we can be. And in this video, I'm going to be going over 5 tips to help you with your mental health during this COVID-19 pandemic. So stay tuned. Welcome back, Psych Dude family. It's good seeing each and every one of you guys today. If you are new to my channel, let me formally introduce myself. I'm the Psych Dude. I'm a board-certified psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, and in this channel, I go over several different subjects to educate the public about mental health, ways to improve your lifestyle, topics related to nursing, nurse practitioners, and psychiatric nurse practitioners like myself. So if you're interested in any of these topics, definitely make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give this video a big fat thumbs up and follow me on Instagram at THEPSYCHDUDE. So you probably clicked this video because you're trying to find out tips and strategies to help your mental health during this COVID-19 pandemic. And yes, a pandemic. Can you believe that? I honestly never thought we'd be in this whole situation. I thought I'd never lived through one of these, but here we are. And honestly, it's starting to take a toll on a lot of people. So I figured I'd make a video, kind of help you get your mental health in place and kind of help strategize to help you make sure you can maintain your mental health during these times and during these periods. And it's important that we kind of recognize all of these things, because once it kind of gets to a point where it's overwhelming, there are not going to be that many options. So might as well kind of prevent it. See if you can use these tips to kind of just prevent your mental health deterioration as a whole. And if we can use these tips positively, then we can come out of this COVID-19 thing strong. So without further ado, let's get started on my 5 tips on how to help improve your mental health during the COVID-19 pandemic. So my very first tip on how to help improve your mental health is making sure you take care of your body. And I know it's pretty common sense, but at the same time, you don't necessarily take care of your bodies, especially when you're at home 24/7. So that means you have to use certain things or do certain things in order for you to make sure you're taking care of your body. So all of those snacks, all of those things that you're eating that are not healthy, I definitely do recommend staying away from them. I want to make sure that you're eating healthy. Even if you're not going out and you're just staying at home, you want to make sure you cook up 3 healthy meals, or if you want to eat more meals, make sure they are healthy. Try to stay away from certain foods that can help you gain weight or make you gain weight, because sometimes when you're starting to gain weight, an unhealthy weight, that's when a lot of these mental health problems come into play. And it's one of those things where you have to always consider what's going on. You want to make sure your body is right, and you want to make sure also you get enough sleep. You have to get enough sleep. Yes, you're going to be having periods of time where you're going to be sleeping all day long, and sometimes it's a good thing depending on how you were before, but other times you might just be sleeping all day long and it might actually worsen some of your moods. So you always want to take that into consideration, and you want to make sure you participate in physical activity, whether it's running in place, running in your backyard, walking your dog. Obviously you want to try to stay away from human interaction as much as possible when coming across people like in the neighborhood, things like that. But you can walk your dog, you can run, you can go hiking. Obviously, you try to want to stay away from places that have way too many people, but if your backyard has areas where you can hike, definitely go that route. You want to make sure you spend time physically and active during this whole process, because just being on the couch and just doing those things, it can wear on your body, and it kind of can suck, because at the same time you're not really doing anything, and you want to make sure you kind of limit the amount of screen time. So you want to set up certain periods of the day where you limit the amount of time you're watching TV, you're on the computer, and you kind of want to substitute those things with possibly reading, listening to music, meditating, things like that. And then And an important one is stay away from alcohol and drugs or other substances that might not be good for you. And this is important. Yes, it's pretty hard for certain people to kind of stay away from that, but as best as possible, try to stay away from that. And by doing all of these tips and by being able to incorporate these things, it's going to overall help your physical self and ultimately help your mental health. So my second tip on improving your mental health during the COVID-19 pandemic is you want to make sure you actually focus on your mental health. So you want to do things like reducing the amount of stressors. That's the main important thing that we're trying to get across today, is making sure you reduce the amount of stressors around you. So if you notice that you're watching TV and you're constantly anxious about that, you're constantly getting stressed about all the news here and there with people coming out with different things, try to stay away from it. Limit the amount of time you're watching these things, because sometimes these can be triggers. These can cause you to kind of be more stressed out than you should be. And it's important that you kind of limit the amount of time, because the anxious person is already going to be anxious about a certain amount of things. But if you're just adding fuel to the flame, you're just going to get more anxious. So just kind of stay away from those situations. I would honestly just say limit as much as possible from the news. Of course, there's credible ones that you kind of want to talk or see or listen to, but at the same time, if you're listening to so many different stations and constantly keeping your head in what's new and what's being updated, you're gonna get more anxious, and that can possibly cause you in a downward spiral. So you definitely want to look at those things and kind of limit yourself once again. And honestly, another tip is to make sure you stay in your routine. So you want to be able to do things that you normally do. So if you shower a certain time, make sure you shower, because doing things that's in routine, it's going to help your mental health and your well-being, and it's going to help care for your mind. So you want to do certain things. If you eat breakfast at a certain time, do that. If you read the newspaper at a certain time, do that. If you go poo or pee at a certain time, do that. You always want to be able to do that. And along with that, you want to be able to focus on positive things. So this kind of goes along with just watching news. Sometimes a lot of it is negative, but you want to be able to focus on positive things. Focus on things that you can now do now that you have all of this free time, and make sure you set these daily goals in accomplishing these things. So a lot of people want to read books. They want to read a certain amount of books. So with all of these free time, why not start reading the books? Or why not set new hobbies? Or why not do things and accomplish these daily goals? And ultimately, by being able to incorporate all of these tips, it's going to help your mind overall and help your mental health overall. So it's important that you kind of set these routines, make sure you kind of remove these stressors from your life to help you overall. So my third tip to help your mental health during this COVID-19 pandemic is you want to make sure you connect with your friends, family, and loved ones. And this is important because as a human being, we're naturally social human beings. And it's important for us to keep that up. And especially if you're living alone and you're kind of quarantining yourself, you still want to be able to socialize with other people. It's important that you recognize this. Talk to friends, talk to family. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to see them in person. It's one of those things where you can text them. You can have a conversation. If you still use AIM, which I don't think is in place, AIM them, you know? But what I'm saying is make sure you create some connectedness with someone in order for you to help socialize. You want to be able to text them. Maybe you can set up group chats with your friends on like WhatsApp and just have good conversations. Maybe you want to be able to set up a Zoom date with your friends and family to do that, because you don't want to just stay cooped up. And a lot of the times, especially if you're already dealing with mental health issues, you're just going to start to ruminate on things. And that's what we don't want. We don't want you to feel like you're alone. We don't want you to feel like nothing is happening for you. You want to be able to talk to people. You want to be able to talk to friends. You want to be able to talk to family. Maybe if you want to talk to someone new that you've never talked to in your whole entire life, try to talk to them. It's important that you kind of develop all of these bonds. And honestly, my tip is go outside of the box. So if you already have your social norm or your social group that you normally talk to, reach out to different people. Yes, we all have those people in our lives that kind of support us. So for example, people on social media, there's one person that you probably never talked to in your whole entire life, but they support you by liking your videos and commenting and stuff, and you might be doing that to the same person, but you've never had a real conversation with them. So do me a favor, try to have a conversation with them, try to talk up to new people, try, obviously make sure it's safe, but at the same time develop different bonds with different people. And that's important. By being able to develop different bonds in times of crisis, it's just going to bring you guys all together. It's going to create a stronger bond amongst you guys and ultimately improve your mental health. So my fourth tip to help improve your mental health during the COVID-19 pandemic is you want to make sure you recognize. So you want to recognize your typical behavior versus your non-typical behavior. So if you have already history of mental health, you want to be able to recognize how you're feeling. You want to be able to recognize what's destructive or bad behavior compared to your normal and good behavior. If you notice that you're losing interest in things, if you notice that you're not showering as much, if you notice you're not eating as much, if you notice that you're just really sad all the time, or you're just really worried all the time, and your mental health is starting to deteriorate even more, it's important that you kind of recognize it. Because if you don't necessarily recognize it and you just let it start to be a norm, by the time all of these things, all of the COVID-19 issues go away, you're just gonna still be at that same spot you are, and it's gonna be a lot harder to dig yourself out of that hole. So if you can kind of recognize your behaviors and kind of recognize certain things you know that might not be your normal, then you kind of have to do something about it, and you want to be able to reach out. Because at the end of the day, once we come out of this stronger than we normally are, we don't want you to feel the same way. We don't want you to still have those behaviors in place. By being able to have an early recognition of these behaviors, then you'll be able to move on further, and you can kind of get a hold of it before it gets uncontrollable. So it's important that you recognize what's your normal behavior versus your abnormal behavior. So my fifth and final tip to help improve your mental health while in the COVID-19 pandemic is seek help when you need to. And this is the most important one. This is the one that I wanted to save for the last, because a lot of the times people are just so afraid about getting COVID-19, getting coronavirus, and not getting the help that they need. But in reality, sometimes mental health can be way worse than a lot of those things happening on the exterior. So you want to be able to get the help that you need. If you notice that a lot of your symptoms are starting to affect your starting to affect every single day, and it's starting to become more and more dreadful, or if you notice a lot of your depressive symptoms or your anxiety symptoms or your paranoia or psychosis or mood disorder symptoms are starting to worsen, and it's starting to worsen every single day as it goes along, and you're not getting help because you're so scared that you're gonna get coronavirus, reach out to someone. There's so many different people out there. There's so many people out there working telehealth. So if you're scared just going out there, reach out to someone. Use Psychology Today to find a therapist or a psychologist or even a psychiatrist or a psychiatric nurse practitioner. Use Instagram. There's so many different resources out there where you don't have to go outside of your house now, but it's important that you recognize your behaviors, and important that you seek help when you feel like you need to, or even with family members. If you feel that your family members are kind of heading in this downward spiral and you can't really help, there's so many different methods to seek a professional. And honestly, it's one of those things that you always have to recognize that help is always there. And even if you feel like maybe telehealth isn't right for you and you want to be able to go out to an office, there are a lot of mental health offices still open. and you can still go to those places, but you need to understand that help is everywhere. And even say, for example, you don't want to go to a mental health clinic, or if you're having thoughts of like suicide or homicidal ideation and it's getting worse and worse and worse, there's so many different ways to help. There's suicide hotlines. You can even text the suicide hotline. You can go ahead and go to the ER. You can call 911, or you can go to psychiatric urgent cares. There's so many different avenues that you can take, and it's important that you seek help sooner rather than later, because at the end of the day, all we care about is your mental health, and we care about you, and we don't want to jeopardize that just because you're staying in. I'm not saying go out, go rampant, and hang out with all your friends to help improve your mental health, but what I'm saying is get the help that you need, especially if it becomes way worse of an issue. Go out there and get the help that you need. Well guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really truly hope you enjoy it, because at the end of the day, we're all here for you, and I'm trying to give as much advice as I can, and hopefully it can help impact someone one day. Yes, this isn't kind of like my normal video, but at the same time, this can apply to so many different people. It can apply to nursing students, it can apply to NP students, it can apply to RNs, LVNs, CNAs, any medical issue, any medical person, and honestly anyone. You can apply these things to what you're doing, but it's especially important if you're working in mental health and you're being home alone and you're kind of just still working, because what we do as nurse practitioners or people that work in mental health is extremely tough. It's already tearing us apart whenever we're having tough caseloads or working too much, but imagine just staying at home and not necessarily having the social interactions. You kind of want to use certain things to help you in that aspect. You want to maintain that routine, like I said, focus on your physical well-being, focus on your own mental health, do things for yourself. Yes, we might still be stuck in our house seeing patients, but what are you doing in between patients? Do squats, do push-ups, do something to kind of just help yourself. Listen to music, meditate in between patients. There's so many different things that you can do for yourself while you're helping others. And I love being at home sometimes. So I work 2 days a week from home normally, but now working 5 to 6 days a week from home, it's tough. But I'm kind of instilling some of these things that I've learned, and kind of instilling the things that I've taught in this video to help my physical and mental well-being. So hopefully it can apply to you, and definitely keep me updated. Comment down below, message me on Instagram, anything. As always guys, have a wonderful day, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and follow me on Instagram at THEPSYCHDUDE. Have a wonderful day guys. Bye.